good, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, the only show breaking down the hows and whys of the Buffalo Bills. I am one of your two hosts this evening, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric, much better atmosphere for everyone after week two. It was not depressing, but there was a lot to break down from a what went wrong, what happened type of perspective after week one. We had a tremendously productive episode last week with for pass from Twitter. Went very long in that episode, breaking down again what went wrong, what happened, where did the Buffalo Bills go from here. Opposite with this episode after week two, the Bills come out and perform very, very well against the Las Vegas Raiders. They get a 38-10 win, and here we are about to embark on another episode of the Film Room with some advanced metrics, some tape, breaking down everything that happened and why, and it's a good old time.
Yeah, first dub of the season. Big dub. 1-1. It was a good game by the Bills. I think on both sides. It was entertaining. It was, when you talk about complementary football, it was very cohesive, very complementary of each other in all phases. It was needed, after that egg that they laid in week one. It was nice to get, one in the win column, and the way they did it in dominant fashion. It just gets them on track. It gets that ball rolling, and they needed it, against a bad team. Let's be real here. Like, the Raiders, they're not really a good team. And if you're looking on both sides of the ball, they're very, one-sided. They're very one-dimensional. And so I think when we watch some of this film tonight, you're going to see the Bills understood that, and they attacked how the offense or defense, how they normally, attack things. And I just thought it was awesome. I think the staff did a great job, put the guys in the right positions to win. And the scheme looked really good on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. And it's hard to say that or talk about the positives with the scheme after week one, despite how ugly it was. But there were positives from a schematic perspective that we broke down last week after week one. And that trend continued in week two. And it's easier to say after a nice win. Nice comment there from Steve saying dubs and tutties. That's all we need. Absolutely right. Wins and touchdowns. And the Bills delivered in that department. And, I like the perspective that you had there. Also, major shout out to Rick. He dropped the super chat before we went live, even on this show. So, Rick, you are a consistent viewer and supporter of us here. We appreciate the hell out of you. And Rick says, it's a roller coaster, boys and girls. Hang on tight. And yeah, that's what we said after week one, right? It's a long season. If the Bills came out and blew out the Jets in week one, cool. You still have a ton of football left. If you come out and you lose ugly in week one like they did, cool. You have a ton of football left. And like you said, it was nice to see them get back on track against a team that you should get back on track against. And like I was alluding to, I like your perspective of, it's a team that, isn't really thorough from a roster perspective. They're putting things together. They have some real quality players. I mean, Maxx Crosby and Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs. And, we're going to break down several pieces related to those guys. But, you did a great breakdown talking about how the Bills neutralized Maxx Crosby. But you can do that against the Raiders because, okay, cool, you have to focus on Maxx Crosby because there's not really anybody else to focus on the defense. And, it's funny going into this, upcoming week against the Commanders where you've got Chase Young and Montez Sweat and Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne and Abdullah Anderson, who's 7th in pass rush productivity on the interior that I'm sure most Bills fans have no idea who that is. Like, correct. You go from, the Jets grouping that has all-pro Quinnen Williams and a good supporting cast around him to the Raiders that have all-world Maxx Crosby and nothing else. And now you kind of go back to that Jets mode a little bit with Washington. So we'll see what the Bills do in this week 3 action against the Commanders. But exactly like you said, this is kind of, don't want to say a get-right game, but after that ugly loss, especially from an offensive perspective, Josh wasn't in rhythm. He was feeling down. We broke down all the poor decision-making and the flustered play that he had. It was nice to see him kind of rein things in a little bit, mixed with how the scheme reined him in, and then what they did offensively and defensively. It was just calm, precise, well-executed football, well-designed football, both offensively and defensively.
Yeah, we're going to start on the defensive side tonight, but I think you're right when you talk about how the scheme kind of put, I call it like a rev limiter on Josh Allen. They kind of capped him out based on the scheme, based on the concepts that they put in, especially early in the game. and didn't allow him to get into that hero ball mode. They did some things with the scheme, the run game, some of the shorter passes, like we're going to talk about, to keep the game in front of him, to stay ahead of the chains. And, it helped him limit those turnovers that we saw in week 1. And when we get to that area, we're going to talk about some of the stats, not just from the Raiders game, but Josh overall, he's lighting it up. Aside from those turnovers, he's really lighting up, and we're talking the passing game. But let's start on the defensive side of the ball, because as we said, the Raiders offense, they're very one-dimensional. Like, I respect, and many guys across the NFL respect Jimmy G for what he can do, how he can lead a team, and how he wins. He wins in a certain way, but when you get behind, it's tough for a guy like him to come back and win games. So the Bills went into this, game and matchup with the idea to shut down Josh Jacobs. And boy, did they ever, Anthony.
Bro, I was a little nervous coming into the Raiders game from that perspective of, they just want to stay on schedule with their run game. And then they go 21 personnel, and they're one of the few teams that are like a true 21 personnel with Jakob Johnson, who's 6'3", 255-pound fullback. Like, he's your old school Sam Gash type of Lorenzo Neal, like your dad's kind of fullback, who is just a masher. And we saw in week 1 against the Jets, when the Jets went heavier, the Bills put Taylor Rapp in, and it did not work out. And the Bills chose to stay in nickel this week against the Raiders when they were in 21. And not only when the Raiders were in 21, but while the Raiders were in 21 with an extra offensive lineman on the field. So they'd have 6 offensive. Go ahead.
And they weren't like bringing these big guys in to spread them out and get the Bills in the base defense. No, they were like, we're coming downhill. We're running power I formation, wham type plays, just coming downhill at the defense. And, it's one of the things that we always talk about, this Bills defense. They're built to defend the pass. They're lighter, especially, at that second level. And you know what? They freaking took it to them. And I think it started up front, though. Let's start up front, because most of the stars of the defensive side of the ball started up front. Ed Oliver,
first play of the game.
Dude is playing lights out right now. People were worried about him after getting his contract. Don't be worried. The boy is balling right now. Daquan Jones, obviously Daquan, he just always shows up at nose tackle. And Rousseau as well, just defending the run. Those 3 guys were the premier standouts from this game, but Ed Oliver, probably the star of the game if we're talking on the defensive side of the ball.
He's just continued that strong play that we've seen flashes of at times throughout his tenure with the Buffalo Bills. And the conversation was always from everybody. Like, everybody and their mother was always like, man, if Ed Oliver could just be a little more consistent. And just what he's done this year, out of 233 qualifying edges and interior defensive linemen, Ed Oliver is 13th in pass rush productivity. Fun fact, Leonard Floyd is 18th, but just what he's done against the pass. And then Eric, you have this queued up from PFF here from a run defense standpoint. Just the total stops, but the stop percentage, just consistently penetrating. He's also winning against double teams. Like, he's affecting the run and the pass. And like you said, as we get into more of the conversation here, when you're stopping the run that successfully, especially against a power team like the Raiders, it starts up front.
Yeah. And this is only from week 2. So you can see it. Against the run only, he had 3 tackles, 3 stops, a stop percentage of 42.9. His average depth of tackle in this game was a tackle for loss. It was negative 0.7. Like, that's ridiculous. You see, I talked about Bernard. We're going to talk about him. We're going to show some of his film. He also had a very good game against the run, triggering downhill, very instinctive, playing off the defensive tackles, as you'll see in some of the film. Rousseau's right there as well. 1 tackle against the run, 1 run stop. But I want to say Daquan Jones, I know he's down the list a little bit there, but what he did against the Raiders isn't going to show up in the box score a lot. But if you go back and watch that film, and how when he realized that the Raiders were coming downhill in those A and B gaps, he was gap exchanging, he was slanting, occupying too, by penetrating quickly. On the interception by Bernard.
Yes, thank you.
He shot upfield and got Jimmy G uncomfortable and kind of
Yeah.
fading back a
The the
little
the the
quicker than
defense
normal.
was the defense was beat again on that screen.
Yeah.
Daquan heated
Oh,
him
that
up
would
and
have been
made that
big.
happen. Yep,
That would have been
absolutely.
huge. So Daquan was the first guy to pressure. Then obviously Rousseau's hands get up. He tips it. It ends up in Bernard's hands. So I do think Daquan, like, go back and watch, guys. Like, he stood out like crazy. And it's a lot of things that's not going to show up on this screen.
He is the king of that kind of like unsung, unheralded hero
Mhm.
type. And we banged the drum for him last year. Having him on the show, we had him on the show because of how strong his play was on the field. And I think we've said this line so many times. Like, I think Bills fans realized his importance when he was out for that game against Cincinnati, and it just drastically changed the interior of what the Bills defense was. And he showed up big time in this game, eating double teams, dropping the knee, just penetrating,
Mhm.
causing havoc, gumming up the works on the interior. And it was the reason, part of the reason why you got to see Matt Milano coming downhill and filling against Jakob Johnson and watching Taron Johnson shoot or Bernard shoot. Like, it was a concerted effort against the run from a numbers perspective, from a physicality perspective, from an effort perspective. And it was just a really, we talk about it all the time, like run fits are scientific, or it takes everybody doing their 111th. And the Bills defense as a run defense unit on almost every rep against the Raiders, it was everybody doing their 111th. And you have to do that when you are in nickel and Taron Johnson's on the field and one of your linebackers is Terrel Bernard. You're significantly
Mhm.
undersized and you're going up against a 255-pound fullback and a sixth offensive lineman. From a size perspective, you're outmanned and you're outgunned. So the way you win is with proper gap integrity or having numbers and committing and being gapped out. The Bills did that on a ton of these reps, and they succeeded individually and holistically as a team.
Yeah, and one of the things the Bills did early, again, they sold out. They sent a lot of run blitzes, and you're
Mhm.
going to see some of those in the film later, where they're slanting the D end, they're slanting the D tackle, they're bringing a safety off the edge or a linebacker or a nickel. They did a lot of those run blitzes where it gummed things up and allowed someone to shoot a gap, someone to come free and make the
Mhm.
tackle. But when it came to Ed Oliver, he wasn't making his run stops in that fashion. He was just straight up bullying dudes into the backfield using power. And so now if we look at some of Ed Oliver's stats so far against the run this year, and this,
Mhm.
again, we have to keep in mind, in prior years with Ed Oliver, a lot of early downs, they would bring him out.
Mhm.
They would bring him out. A lot of his, when he would come off the field, it was usually on run downs, and they put a little more beef in there to not just help out the defensive line, give him a blow, but because they wanted to help the linebackers at the second level. This year, that's not happening, and he's blowing things up. You see 6 solo tackles against the run. His run stop percentage of 17.9 in the first 2 weeks is ranked 4th behind Quinnen Williams. Like,
Mhm.
again, he is taking his game to the next level, and we're not even talking about the pass rush game, which he's being super disruptive in that manner too. But his power and ability to control the line of scrimmage at the point of attack has really stood out the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, we've seen him a lot of times when he's flashing. It's that quickness, it's that penetration, it's him one gapping and getting upfield. But I like the verbiage that you use there just now. Like, we're seeing him stronger at the point of attack, whether it's against double teams or just individual base blocks or
Mm-hmm.
guards trying to reach him. Like, the physicality, the hand placement, the usage, the stacking and shedding. Like, he's added that piece to his game. So he's not just this fly up the field and make a play or leave a huge gap and get run through like what happened against the Indianapolis Colts in the regular season a couple years ago. We're seeing stronger play at the point of attack. And Eric, that's what this Bills team needs in order to help these linebackers start to take advantage of their speed and processing. You got to keep them clean. And Ed's done it in a variety of ways, either with penetration or staying strong at the point of attack.
Yeah, and talk about setting the tone, right? And then unfortunately, this drive was not a good drive. It ended up, with a touchdown with the Raiders. But the first play of the game to come out against Greg Van Rotten, some of my coworkers call him
Poor
Van
guy.
Rotten. I mean, Ed Oliver should win this route, and he does. He just gets under this dude's pads, pushes him back 2-3 yards, and you can see Jacobs trying to take that wide zone run there. He's just blown up by Ed Oliver at the point of attack.
And this is exactly what you want to see from your defensive line, where you've got 4 down and, Bernard is kind of creeping in a little bit, but it's almost just like a 5-man box. Hyde
Mhm.
comes down and spins down post snap, but Oliver gets underneath Van Roten, drives him completely into the backfield, and it's chaos and disruption to the point that Jacobs has nothing to do. The timing is off. His track is off. He
Yeah.
has nowhere to go purely because of the get off, the leverage, and the burst. And you see when Ed comes off, he dips under after he comes up and he gets right underneath the pads of Van Roten, drives him back. I also like on this one, I mean, Ed makes the play, so no one else has the chance to. Rousseau coming off the right edge there, grabbing the wrist or the hand.
Clubbing him by.
Bro, it's so disrespectful. Like he pulls him through, clubs him, chucks him to the ground. Like that's a huge man at right tackle. And Rousseau is just like, get out of my way. And he like throws him like your little brother is like your little brother's on the couch and he's in your spot. So you just grab him, you chuck him out. Like I was the little brother, so that happened to me. It's just good. It's good run play from your defensive line. And we expect it from Rousseau at this point. He's been that way since his rookie year. But seeing Ed function in this way, it's just another element to this defense.
Yeah, and another element, to this defense. We're talking about, the run blitzes that we're seeing on early downs. Now, the Bills did run a lot of run blitzes under Leslie Frazier, but I feel like if it's first down and the offense isn't a run type personnel or tendency group, they're going to send a run blitz. And so here you could see Rousseau and Daquan Jones slanting inside. So you're seeing they're starting on the outside shoulder, and then you see them slant inside. So there's Daquan, here comes Rousseau, and they're bringing Poyer off the edge. And again, it just gums things up. But watch what the guys in front of Milano, again, an undersized linebacker, watch what the guys in front of him do. Daquan Jones slants inside. Ed Oliver, look at Ed Oliver's technique here.
Beautiful.
Drop that near knee, occupy those two guys. And what does that do? Look at Milano just hopping around like a baby deer, just hopping around, staying clean. And Oliver gets off the block as well. And they meet at the ball carrier. Like that is tremendous scheme, by calling that run blitz.
Yep.
But then execution by the guys on the field of occupying and letting others do their job and do their 111.
It's so pretty, because again, you have the individual execution tied into the design and the call. And anytime you can have your two interior defenders on the line gumming up the works and having two guys take up three, that's going to be a win, because in this instance, it keeps Matt Milano clean. And just watching Ed, I love how he drops that knee. Watching defensive tackles drop the knee is just absolutely gorgeous. Like watching them reduce that surface area and stay strong at the point of attack, like we talked about earlier. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we always talk about that. So if you guys are new to the film room, what that means is he recognizes. So Ed Oliver right here, he's recognizing that a combo block's coming here. So there's two guys coming down on him. Usually when a combo block comes, one guy is the leverage. He's the hand leverage. That's usually this guy right here. And then the driver, we call this guy the driver because he wants to displace Ed Oliver in that direction. So Ed Oliver is taught, okay, when that driver's coming to hit you, you drop the near knee to anchor down. And then when that double team or combo block dissipates, usually one of those guys is going to the next level in either direction. When that dissipates, that's when you come back up, you pop back up, and you see Daquan Jones' disruption right here. It kind of almost takes that double team off of Ed, allows him to get free. And again, Ed Oliver and Milano are there in the hole. So that's what Anthony means when he says dropping that near knee. He's getting that near knee down, it's coming from that driver in that same side of the ball there, and just, again, taking on that double team and then popping up and making that tackle.
And it's beautiful. And the way he pops up, it's almost like it's purposefully synchronized with Daquan slanting inside. It's almost like they execute a little like twist just between the two of them, and then Ed scrapes over the top and he's clean. So you've got Ed dropping the knee, staying strong at the point of attack. You've got the quickness from Daquan getting penetration against his man and then messing up the double team on Ed. And then that's the last piece for me. Taron Johnson, who I feel like he thinks that he's 6'3", 240. Like that's the way he plays the run. Like dude is just flying 1,000 miles per hour against the run. And
look
you
at
highlighted everybody else.
The gap integrity.
Boom, you're gapped out.
Everyone's selling out.
There you go. You're good to go. And we didn't see some instances of this in week one. We saw at times where the Bills were out gapped instead of being gapped out, and they were at a disadvantage from the get-go before the rep even happened. This week, we saw more of a commitment to stopping the run. And again, this is one of those examples that I talked about earlier. The Raiders have their true fullback, Jakob Johnson, on the field, and they have a sixth offensive lineman. And the Bills are sitting here like, So even if they are gapped out, they're gapped out with Taron Johnson and Terrell Bernard and a smaller, 3 tech and Ed Oliver. So that means you have to win and play to your strengths. You have to win with that burst and that tenacity and that go forward combined with the scheme. And that's the reason they were able to win here. And this is just a complete win across the board from an individual and schematic level. It's beautiful. And you see this kind of rep time and time again in this game.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. And here's another play by Oliver at the line of scrimmage. Watch him at the point of attack. Again, point of attack, he is right over here. And then you're getting that slant again, that run blitz. Daquan across the face, Shaq Lawson across the face, Jordan Poyer off the edge. Poyer is the one that makes a tackle down the line of scrimmage. But again, look at where is he supposed to go? Where is Jacob supposed to go on this play? Look at Ed Oliver. I mean, he is taking Van Roten to the woodshed on this play, just driving him back, forcing Jacobs. Jacobs has to make a decision at this point. Do I stay outside or do I cut it back? Either way, it's not looking good on either of those options. And so Oliver pushes him back, makes him bubble outside a little bit. And then Jacobs is trying to find a little crease inside here, but there's just nowhere to go. And I think it's Benford that's, kind of sifting through the traffic there. Poyer's coming from the backside. I also like Bernard. It's one thing I have noticed with Bernard. I like the way he feels cutback lanes. You can see him. He's like, everyone's getting washed this way. Why would I continue, scraping that way? I'm going to cut up inside and try to find that cutback lane. Does he make the tackle? No. But if Jacobs were to get up inside here, this fullback's kicking out Benford, guess who would be right there? They would both be right there to make the tackle. Again, just great run defense by the Bills. Sean McDermott and the Bills defense sold out to stop Jacobs. And that's why he ended with -2 yards on the day.
Absolutely wild for the leading rusher in the NFL last year who dominated in Josh Jacobs. I love your point there with Benford because it's really easy to just kind of flow too much over the top. And that's how you get two guys in the same gap. And all of a sudden that cutback is there. But the Bills maintain here, and you're highlighting so many of my favorite pieces. You get that edge setting presence from Greg Rousseau. He uses his length a lot.
Jesus. Look at the control. Look at the hand control. Look at wrist control right there. Like, he set that edge perfectly.
Yes. He establishes first contact, and then he uses his length in a variety of ways, but you see it so much in the run when he sets the edge. Like, he just gets his hands into the chest plate of the tackle and is just completely controlling him. And then boom, like I highlighted again, that's a sixth offensive lineman there. Nope. So he's not just owning a tight end. He's owning their sixth offensive lineman, completely sets the edge, forces Jakob Johnson to have to put his foot in the ground and cut it up as the lead blocker for Jacobs. There's the alley. There's nowhere to go. Like on this zone run, the play is already almost destroyed because Van Roten gets knocked off the plane with the rest of his linemen so intensely that, like you said, Jacobs has to bubble out, and that's not his strong suit. So Ed disrupts this play. And then Benford, really great piece, like from, the guy who was the dark horse to win the corner 2 spot. And, he's had some good run defense reps in the preseason to start this year. Like watching him sift through the traffic and get his shoulder pads and his eyes to the ball and making a play here as Poyer chases it down and Benford gets a piece. Again, there's like, if we wanted to focus on just one person, we could, but there's like 6 really quality reps in here.
A lot of wins.
Yes, a ton of wins, and they're winning schematically, but they're also winning individually. And you can win either way in the NFL. You can win with scheme or you can win with individual execution. When it came to the run defense in this game for the Bills, they won in both ways, and that's pure dominance.
Yeah, it was good stuff. We got one more play here against for the defense here. So this is the last play. But again, it starts up front, Daquan Jones, and then you have Terrell Bernard sifting through the traffic and making the tackle, but you have a nice edge set so that running back can't bounce it. Again, the Bills were selling out. So watch on the snap, watch Daquan Jones and how he slants into that A gap. And this guy's like, oh, perfect. We're trying to run a lead play, to his side. And what is the offensive lineman do? He's like, okay, I'll just, I'll slide this guy out and no problem. That's fine. Daquan Jones is a little out of his gap. He's kind of upfield now. Well, it's up to the linebackers to play off of that. It's up to the guys behind in the play off that. And that's what Bernard does here perfectly. I just love how he comes downhill, plays off of Daquan Jones, and he's clean, obviously, and he just makes a tackle. This dude, he's been impressive. I'm a sucker for linebackers. I'll put that out there. I love linebackers. I love most linebackers. But I just like when it just, I feel like there's so many good athletes at the position and they have to process on the fly so much quicker than other guys, because they're in the box that often, and they have to play off of guys like Daquan Jones here, where there's a gap there, and easily, Bernard could have just stayed in that, backside A gap, waited to that where that running back was, and then Jacobs maybe cuts it up inside and gets, blows by him. But he came downhill, made the stop, and I think he's just been really impressive, especially when we're talking against the run game. He comes downhill, he fires his gun, and he makes the tackle.
Yeah, he's had a couple of really good run defense reps these first 2 weeks where he sees it and he quick triggers and gets downhill and closes. And, again, like the coordinated dance that is run defense. Sometimes your job isn't to be the guy to make the tackle. Like sometimes you are that force player, you are that spill player. And you highlighted Bernard, you highlighted Daquan Jones. I also like how Poyer spins down and he attacks that outside shoulder of Jakob Johnson because he knows he's got Milano inside him, but then also Bernard is coming free. And then Leonard Floyd on the outside, just playing responsible against Colton Miller. He stays clean. He gets his hands into the chest of Miller, but he's got him at a distance in case Jacobs bounces that outside because he knows he's that force player. So he's got his responsibility. And then boom, there you go with the lines. Like they are in their gaps. You can't really see Bernard, but he's shooting through and you got him highlighted with the line. Like everybody's in their gap, responsible for what they are responsible for. And that's how you play run defense. Sometimes you just have a game record like Ed Oliver's done it at times in this game, or Aaron Donald for years where, this guy just made a play in a half a second and the run is blown up. But a lot of times it takes a coordinated effort, and that's what you got on this play. So Bernard makes it, and it's great on him, but I also love what Poyer and Floyd did in addition to Bernard and Daquan Jones.
Yeah, and so far, for Terrel Bernard against the run, since we're looking at some of these run plays, he's actually been really good against run. He's put up a bunch of tackles too, which is kind of surprising, through 2 games. Right now, he has 4 solo tackles versus the run, 6 assisted tackles, only missed 1 tackle so far, 4 run stops. That's a run stop percentage of 10.8. And his average depth of tackle is 0.8. So not even a yard. So he's playing at or near the line of scrimmage against the run, not, wasting a lot of time. I know a lot of people look at him and say, and we're in the same boat. When we saw him at training camp, we're like, God, he's like, you put him next to Saran Neal and the DBs and he fits right in. You put him next to the linebackers, like, gosh, man. And then he wears number 43, which is kind of odd. That's one thing I will request from Bernard is to change his number next year. But
I don't like I didn't like Edmonds with 49. I don't like Bernard with the 43. It's a huge pet peeve.
I like the player, but I don't like it at linebacker. And it just, you got to change the number, brother.
Yeah. If you want to take that next step as a player in this league, you got to have some respect for yourself and just get a better number. But we talked about him in the offseason as kind of being our preference at the linebacker spot because of the multitude of things he does from a pass coverage standpoint mixed with the run. But the one thing we always connected with Bernard was how he plays from the neck up and, mentally. And a lot of the reason he's succeeding, for me at least, it's just because of how well he processes, his ability to diagnose accurately and efficiently. And that's something that goes back to his time at Baylor with Dave Aranda and what McDermott said about him in camp last year, what Frazier said about him. Like, he's such a smart, heady player. And you see it with his ability to diagnose and figure out where he needs to fit to make plays.
Yeah, and Pete says if we're going to say the Raiders are terrible, then take that with a grain of salt. Of course, everything we say tonight is with a grain of salt because, again, I don't think the Raiders are that good a team. No. But for over the first 2 weeks, for Bernard to play the run this well, a guy that everyone talked about is being undersized and he can't stop the run, that's why we're highlighting it.
Yes.
We're showing you that he actually is performing. And for I remember I sent this tweet out about Edmonds through 2 games last year and Bernard through 2 games this year. And I'm like, Anthony, I'm going to have to mute this one immediately because I know it's going to bring out a lot of haters. And it
didn't go unnoticed.
No, it did not go unnoticed. And so if you're looking at some of these stats through the first 2 games of 2022, Edmonds versus the run, he had 3 solo tackles, 0 assisted, had 3 run stops and an 8.8 run stop percentage, similar average depth of tackle of 0.7. Whereas again, Bernard had, he accumulated more tackles and he has a higher run stop percentage. So again, this is not to draw any conclusions at all. As someone has said on Twitter, oh, you're drawing conclusions off of 2-game sample. No, I actually didn't draw any conclusions. As you can see, I just showed their stats. There's no conclusions being made. I just wanted to see how they both fared because both of them saw in the first 2 games of each season saw the same number of run defensive snaps. So I want to see, where they stood and, is there a drop off, especially when you're talking to some of the teams that they played and how they're going to lean on the run.
Yeah.
So right now, again, I think Bernard, he's looked solid. I think he's looked very solid. I thought in this game, when in coverage, I thought the things that we kind of talked about as pluses last week, where he kind of senses routes going in behind him and crossing and reads the quarterback's eyes, the quarterback takes his eyes to the ball in pass coverage when he's in zone coverage. I felt like in this game, he was kind of overdoing it in that regard. And Jimmy G would be looking off to the right side of the field and Bernard would drift. And it's like, dude, you're in cover 3. You got to stay in that, in that middle area. Like, what are you doing? Stay in your hook to curl area. And he was drifting and it opened up a check down to Jacobs. It opened up Hunter Renfrow on a deep crossing route, but Jimmy G didn't see him several times. Actually, I'll say that several times.
I literally
Renfrow could have had a big game.
Yeah, I was going to say I have in my notes like one of the not detracting pieces for the Bills defense, but one of like the cons or stock down pieces for me were that there were guys, mainly Hunter Renfrow, running open in that middle of the field against several cover 2 looks, one cover 4 look, and Jimmy G just didn't hit him. No. And those are opportunities that I think, because Jimmy G's efficient, but more.
He doesn't like the middle though. He doesn't like the middle of the field.
No. So like more, I don't want to say like non-risk averse quarterbacks, but quarterbacks who will pepper that middle of the field, like will recognize that. And I think that's an area to test. Like Bernard and Benford are the two like new guys on the defense. Like they're going to get tested at some point regularly with the pass coverage pieces. And it's nice to see Bernard succeed, but I love that you said that. I didn't want to drill too hard, but yeah, there were times where I was like, oh my God, like so-and-so is wide open. Ironically, Renfrow a bunch. And I was just like, where is Jimmy? A couple times there was some pressure and Jimmy couldn't see it. Then Jimmy, moved Bernard and Hyde on a really good rep on a long 3rd down completion to Davante Adams that I like. But then there were other times, where he had Renfrow or other guys running in the middle and he just didn't get to him. And that's an area that they got to clean up.
Right. And it's a good and a bad thing. As we said last week, and when I broke him down by myself, I said that, hey, he plays that vision-based scheme very well. He reads the quarterback. Well, good quarterbacks are going to use that against him. Good quarterbacks are going to use their eyes to manipulate him, get him to drift, and then all of a sudden, now that opens up the seam or that opens up the middle of the field even more. So it's something to keep an eye on because, again, that may be a strength of his, how he trusts his eyes, right? That's a great thing. That's a great instinct to have. But good quarterbacks will move you if you trust your eyes that much, if you're not playing within the structure of the play and also reading your keys. If you're just reading him and you're not reading or feeling the routes behind you or going in through your zone, especially in zone coverage, then those good quarterbacks are going to take advantage of you. But overall, man, the defensive side of the ball was quite impressive. Again, Raiders are one-dimensional, so keep that in mind when you go back and watch it when you're talking about this game. But I thought they did a great job on the defensive side of the ball. The staff did a great job of, again, calling some timely run blitzes to shut down Jacobs, not allow them, aside from that first drive, not allow them to get and stay ahead of the chains, which can get the Bills in trouble. Because then, again, they start to, maybe McDermott gets a little too aggressive, and then those big plays happen. It almost happened. That Bernard interception, that screen, that was really the turning point of this game. I think that was a huge play by Rousseau and Bernard.
Yeah, and it set the Bills up immediately, almost I think like the 30-yard line, roughly, led to a touchdown for him. And yeah, it came after that first play for the Raiders was brutal with Ed Oliver, but then everything else, it's just Davante Adams, and then it's a nice screen pass, and then it's a screen to Davante for the touchdown. It was just like everything went by design the rest of that opening drive for the Raiders, and they're up 7-0. And that's a game where, this team trades away Darren Waller. They bring in Jacoby Myers, who had a tremendous week 1. He has that concussion. He's out. So this is a group that, they are one-dimensional, and they don't have a ton of studs. They do have Renfrow, but Jimmy's not throwing him the ball. And this was a game where the Bills defense had the opportunity to eat and to dominate. And the first drive was rough. And they really kind of came through at the end, and not really at the end, like after that first drive with the turnovers, the pressuring, and really not allowing the Raiders any room to breathe, which is what they needed to do. And Jimmy did have some opportunities, didn't get to him, but that's unfortunate. Eric, what do you got?
Yeah, before we get into the next section, we're going to flip the script and get to the offensive side of the ball. But before we get there, we want you guys to take a look at our OnePass option here at Cover One. It's something that, again, we wouldn't be able to do any of this film breakdowns, analysis, telestration, advanced stats, creating presentation slides and stuff like that you're going to see tonight. So we wouldn't be able to do that without you guys engaging with us in here on YouTube, but also, becoming a premium subscriber, becoming an insider for us. So we're going to drop this video real quick and send it over to Greg and Aaron to let you know what that is.
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One OnePass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
Eric, one of those pieces with the OnePass subscription that we always bang the drum for is the Slack channel. And I love that Nicholas came through and immediately said, come join Slack. It's, again, like we've said, like he knows, and like you've said before, and like we've said, like there's a lot of the toxicity that exists on the social media platforms, and the Slack channel is just there, and there's a lot of members of it, but just the conversations that happen from a Bills standpoint, from a film standpoint, from a fantasy football standpoint, there's just a multitude of channels and pieces in it. And it's a really great environment and atmosphere to sit and come talk ball, come talk Bills. There's a lot of other shenanigans that go down in the Slack channel. It's easy to get lost in the Slack channel, but he knows how tremendous that piece is. And speaking of tremendous, Eric, the Buffalo Bills run game. And not only crazy. And not only just the run game collectively, but we're seeing success with multiple running backs. We're seeing we're going to break down the scheme and the types of runs that they've been succeeding with, but really how the run game has been distributed amongst the Bills running backs so far this year, especially in this past game with James Cook, Latavius Murray, and Damian Harris. It's something we want to talk about and highlight because it's been successful, and it's been a really key cog of this offense thus far.
Yeah, it was big in this game against the Raiders. It was, a ball control type game. Again, controlling the line of scrimmage. The Bills did a great job of that up front. And we're talking offensive line. We're talking skill position. We're talking the tight ends, which you're going to see some of the blocking with the tight ends, which is exciting because, as we've been talking about this entire offseason and the first two games about how the Bills are using 12 personnel. They're at the 50% range right now. They're using 12 personnel. So one running back, two tight ends, 50% of the time. In this game, I think it was up over 38%, somewhere around there. But they even busted out some 13 personnel. We're going to break down some of those plays later. But the running back room has been so much fun to watch. They brought in Murray late, and we thought this guy was probably just going to be a practice squad guy, a break the glass in case of emergency guy. This dude comes in and basically took over the running back 2 position. He's getting a ton of good reps, and he just brings a different physical presence than Cook and Harris in many ways, just at the size alone. But he has a very good, powerful downhill running style. Then you got the slasher and Cook. I just love the committee they have going right now. And it showed in that Raiders game. They were super efficient. And again, that multiplicity in the different personnel groupings, whether, we're talking tight ends or running backs, was just so much fun to watch in this game. It's really a game when we're talking about the run game. It's the game that is almost like a blueprint for the rest of the season, right? When we're talking about having that complement to Josh Allen, that passing game, exactly what they did against the Raiders is what they need to look at when they need to come back to square one and go back to that blueprint.
Yeah, this one was really beautiful, and it in its execution, and also because selfishly it tied into a piece that we've talked about a bunch on this show all offseason. We talked about, if O'Cyrus Torrence wins the right guard job, his physical presence, his people moving ability, would we see more of a downhill running attack? Would we see more of a run game that had more vertical displacement? It could be inside zone. It could be duo. And, and would we see more, gap scheme runs in general where he's pinning and you're seeing, McGovern, pulling and so on and so forth. We saw a ton of duo in this game. We're going to show you folks some reps of it as we go forward, but it's nice to see the running back skill set and play style meshing well with the offensive line. James Cook's ability to get downhill in a hurry with his vision and his burst, and how that pairs with duo works
So
really
cool.
well. So beautiful. And then on the other side of it, you've got Latavius Murray, who is just this hammer and is like, just give me a crease, and even if it's not there, I'm just going to be big and huge and physical and just maul my way through. And Damian Harris is a little bit in that hammer mold, but a little different as well. And they spread the ball around well in that week 2 game. And Eric, this graphic is just, really telling for, you see the total attempts here, but the EPA per attempt for each guy, that's a successful week for these 3 running backs in a game where you wanted the offense to get right. You wanted Josh Allen to not feel like he had to do everything himself. And the running game was there. And these running backs really significantly helped the offense.
Yeah, for week 2, they were all on the plus side of EPA per attempt. So I like, again, the distribution, 17 attempts for Cook, 7 for Harris, 6 for Murray. And I liked when they used those guys in the certain situations that came up, whether it's down and distance or, again, personnel groupings, right? And, we talked those 12 and 13 personnel groupings, but all 3 of them, when the Bills brought those heavy sets in, all 3 of them got their touches in those looks, and they were on the plus side. We're talking some of the carriers. Again, we're going to break down some of those plays. But now if we kind of scale it back and not just talk about week 2, but talk about the entire season, and we're talking the run game for the Bills, running backs only. So no run game from the quarterback at all. Look at some of their rankings, Anthony. I mean, top 10 in basically every major category. When we're talking EPA per rush, they're ranked 6th. Yards per rush, 5.22. They're 5th. Rushing yards, 235. The 2 stats I really like next are the yards before contact per rush at 1.67. That's top 10. So again, the amount of yards that the running backs are getting before there is any type of contact, that's nearly 2 yards. That's 8th overall. Yards after contact per rush, this is even more mind-blowing, is 3.56 yards. So 3.56 yards after contact per rush, they're averaging right now. That's 4th overall, Anthony. I mean, that right there is what we've wanted to see. Because last year, the Bills were top 5. I think they're even top 2 when it came to running backs only. No, actually, they were top 3. They're 3rd overall in running in yards before contact per rush. Correct. All right. So they were 3rd overall. So the line, they were getting them some yards before contact, but some of the issues that arose were after contact. And you can see it this year, again, with those bigger backs and some of those power guys, and even Cook looking slippery at times. They're getting yards after contact.
That's such a key piece, right? Like, you add more of the physical downhill running backs with Harris and Murray, guys who are known for, breaking arm tackles and falling forward. And we've seen that from them. And that's, again, a significant piece that's been added to this offense. But Cook falls into that significantly. Like, I just didn't expect the type of run toughness, contact balance that we've seen from him this year, like the slipperiness, like you've talked about, like his ability to get out of arm tackles, his ability to run through shoulders, his ability to fall forward. Even I'm thinking of which run. I think it's one of the duo runs, but there were so many plays for Cook in this game. He's about to go out of bounds, but he drops the shoulder and lowers it into the safety right into the end, just for a little physical oomph. Like, him just playing with that physical edge, with the burst and juice that he has, it's just a whole commitment. I think it's the identity of these running backs. I think it's, the identity and pairing it with this run game. And who knows, maybe Harris and Murray are always giving him crap in practice, calling him like a little guy and say he can't break tackles and stuff like they can. And just, you see those numbers you had in the graphic. One I wanted to pull as well that I mentioned to you offline, the Bills as a team are 5th in EPA per rush in the red zone. And then if you filter out some of the teams that have less than 5 carries, there's 29 teams that have at least 5 carries in the red zone. They're 3rd as a team in EPA per rush. We saw Damian Harris with a touchdown in the low red zone this week. I think a 4-yarder or a 4-yarder for Murray, like a 1-yarder for Harris. That physicality, that downhill style, it's pairing well with this offensive line. It pairs well with 12 and 13 personnel, like we're going to talk about. It plays well a lot with this offense. And this is in my notes later, but we'll talk about it now from Bob. Bob saying this is what the Bills need when Josh is having one of his sugar high games. Put the game in the hands of the line and the RBs. It gives Josh a chance to settle down and keep the chains moving. Exactly. How much have people talked about, like, oh, well, Ken Dorsey needs to rein Josh in, or Josh needs to rein himself in, by taking these checkdowns and working underneath. What's the easiest way to rein Josh Allen in? call a run play and make them turn around and hand the ball off, and then just keep
Yeah.
working 5, 6, 7 yards a pop like the Bills have been.
Take some of that responsibility off him. Give him a playoff, right? He just hands it off and runs the keeper, makes it look like he's running some kind of boot. Give him a breather. Give him some time off. There aren't many opportunities to do that for a quarterback. There aren't many opportunities, even more so for a guy like Josh Allen, who brings it not just in the passing game, but also with his legs and from the shoulders up. So it's nice to have a run game to complement. Again, the offensive line had over the last couple of years has gotten, some holes open for some of the running backs, but it's almost like the complement of running backs weren't quite there. Zach Moss is having some pretty good success right now, in Indy. And that's what they kind of wanted to, kind of complement Singletary over the years, but they were almost too similar. So it's nice that they were able to get a guy like Damian Harris, who's always been in that, top 10 range when it comes to yards over expected, and stuff like that. And then again, a big physical presence in Murray, who just has such good vision, wastes very little time behind the line of scrimmage, and just gets north and south, and then finishes, as you saw in that end zone run.
Yeah, it's a real no-nonsense type of running back group. Like, even throwing Cook in there as well. Like, he's been more of a decisive runner, a little patient as well, but kind of making that one cut and go, taking advantage of his burst and his juice. But again, like, with that, the short yardage area, with the red zone area, and how it just all pairs well with this offensive line, like having this true physical downhill presence of a run game is so important. And then now it starts to open more opportunities for explosives with the under center play action game. And now you get into all these mismatch opportunities with your 12 and 13 personnel. And if the defense stays in nickel, and all these things we're going to talk about as we go forward, but Eric, it's a huge thing for the Bills to have this pivot in their offense with the run game, to have this complementary aspect. So whether it's a matchup piece in a given week and they need to lean more into the run game, or there's a weather issue for a game, or they just need to calm Josh Allen down a little bit, knowing that they have this in their game and their arsenal is absolutely tremendous.
Sophia, thank you. She says, smash for top shelf analysis. Go Bills. Thank you, Sophia. We appreciate that super chat. If you guys have any questions or comments, concerns, you want to throw a statement out about this game or what the Bills are doing this year so far, especially if you want to talk scheme, like bring it, send us a super chat and we'll bring it up on the screen. Sophia, we appreciate that. Again, you guys really drive this show. But there is one comment I wanted to bring up here because it makes a ton of sense. It's good lead into this. Steve says, Josh under center really helps the run game as well. I know Josh hates it, but the O-line and running backs will thrive if he does it. And this is something I want to talk about, not just from being under center versus shotgun, but from Aaron Kromer's sense and what he's teaching up front and the offensive line, because I have felt that this year you're seeing a great mesh between the passing game and the running game so far. Again, we're only 2 weeks in. It's one thing that was kind of disjointed in past years. Again, they were heavy shotgun for a majority of the season the last few years because of Josh Allen and just wanting him to see the field and keeping that run ability as a threat, whether it's zone read, some of those counter bash plays and design runs for him. But now that they scaled that back a little bit, they almost have built a different part of their offense in with a lot of these under center runs. We're going to talk about it. We keep alluding to it. Duo run. We're going to talk about it and show you the film on it. But I just feel like the concepts and the formations have just been so much better brought together between the passing and the run game. And I got to give that credit to Kromer and Dorsey because this offseason they did a little R&D. And I think so far through 2 weeks, it's really showed up. It's really showed out on film for us.
It really has, seeing the concepts that they're getting to from a run standpoint and a pass standpoint out of similar personnel groupings and similar formations. It's just where like such good offensive play exists in the NFL. I remember watching, Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. I was watching a clinic with him, and he was talking about how every run that the Eagles have in their package, in their playbook, they have a play action pass that is the exact same look off of that run action for every run that they have. And that may seem like, that seems like such a basic thing, but that's so important because then when you start to work and succeed with the run game, when you show that action, those second level defenders, they get sucked in even harder because they have to honor that run because 1, the threat of the run is real. 2, you're showing that same action because, the run action looks the same when you're running it versus play action. And all of a sudden you can hit them behind in the intermediate and those explosive areas. It's a nice schematic piece, like you said, Nick. You tip your cap to Dorsey and to Cromer. The way things early on, 2 weeks in, small sample size. And again, the Raiders are not a quality unit on the defensive side of the ball. But what we saw from a design standpoint against the Raiders was tremendously encouraging. And then pairing that with the execution, even more so.
Right. And so we're going to transition to the film now. Again, we're talking the Bills running game. And again, we talked about how they've gone under center a little more, especially in this game. They went under center a little more. But I want to talk about concepts now. We talked about the formations, personnel groupings, and all that. And I want to talk about concepts. And one of the major concepts that the Bills have used is called duo. And Anthony, you said it in our interaction on social media. Let everyone know what duo is and how it's referred to.
I'm on mute. Embarrassing.
It's all right. I was going to let you slide. You're good.
I got to call myself out. I'm a man of my word. So duo, the tagline for it is referred to as power without a puller. It is a downhill run concept. The running back is reading the play side linebacker. It gives you the opportunity and gives that running back with his track to stay inside based on what opens up, or, depending on how the front is aligned, the defense can get washed down. You have the opportunity to bounce that run outside if you're the running back and get a one-on-one with a corner or whoever that outside DB potentially is. So it's a nice physical gap scheme run. Again, it's referred to the tagline for everybody, power without a puller. It's an opportunity to create vertical displacement, really kind of bully defenses and get them off the line. And you see it on this play, in a multitude of ways, especially with Dalton Kincaid and Deion Dawkins. And also one little piece for like the duo name with it, like the hallmark of it too, power without a puller, but you're getting double teams and offensive linemen or, together or pairing with tight ends, attacking that first level defender, one of them climbing to the second level. And that's how it works.
Yeah, usually there's 2 double teams on this play, but because of this front and being in the low red zone and the goal line look from the defense, you're not getting those. But what you talked about bullying. You get the bullying right here by Kincaid and Dawkins. Watch the displacement they create right there, and then they're working towards that linebacker who you said is the read. Now, typically, if this linebacker shoots a gap right here, then the running back is obviously going to bounce it outside. On this play, you see Spillane kind of go outside and work over the top of that combo right into the hands of Kincaid. And that allows Murray just to stay inside and basically has a runway to get north and south. I like this wrinkle that they're adding this year with bringing Gabriel Davison to help out.
Yeah,
they did it with Kincaid. He inserts on this play as you get the base block by Knox on the outside. He kind of, just walls this guy off. He accounts for the safety. So he's picked up. What we'll see sometimes is, and we saw it in this game where, this guy kind of washes someone down and then the safety is coming from depth and you're going to see Kincaid. Kincaid came down and blocked that edge player. So it's almost like a cleanup. He cleans up the edge because if the running back bounces, then he can get outside there cleanly. And as we always talk about with duo, especially from under center, this is a play that typically is going to bounce. And that bounce is going to put a running back one-on-one with a corner. We always talked about, we talked about last week when Josh Allen was hitting Knox and Kincaid quickly underneath and making corners tackle tight ends. Well, that's what they want on this play. They want that running back to eventually bounce it. That linebacker comes downhill. They want that running back to bounce it so they can get that one-on-one with the corner, make them tackle Murray, make them tackle Harris. Heck, even try to tackle Cook. The dude's so slippery. Like you're going to see a play. He makes a great cut and gets north and south. But this is duo. This is the gap run. When PFF charts things, it's either gap or zone, but there are way more concepts under each of those umbrellas. This technically is a gap run, but as you guys know, because when people say gap runs, most think what? Power, right?
Power,
counter tray, right? You have a puller. That's not the case with duo. It's still in the gap family. And that's why the Bills primarily right now through 2 weeks, Anthony, are a gap team because they have the most runs in this family, but it's because of this play. It's a play without a puller. It's a power run without a puller. So this is what we wanted to focus on when it came to the run game, because the Bills ran this, several times. I think they had 20 gap runs in this game, right? They had 20 gap runs. Yeah. Only 6 of those were actually runs with a puller. This play, they ran like 7 or 8 times. alone.
And it's worked, like that
Yes.
downhill nature of it. And yeah, on the year, they're sitting at, what is it, through 2 weeks, 29 gap runs and 11 zone. I also like on that piece too, you talked about, this goes back to the graphic, yards before contact. Like, Murray doesn't get touched until he gets to the goal line.
Right.
Because of what happens on that left side. And then because he gets that runway and has that physicality, just puts his shoulder down and runs through Spillane and Epps. And, do also, for those, just in case you ever wonder, like, do always run to the tight end side, like you see here. And also a fun piece with having Knox and Kincaid here, kind of tying it to what defenses are going to do when they match. The Raiders are still in nickel here. So they're trying to fit this run against Kincaid, against Knox, against Gabe Davis, against Deion Dawkins. They're trying to fit it with, a nickel corner, a regular corner, like a safety. Like, that's not ideal for a defense. And so if your 12 personnel grouping can function in the pass like Kincaid and Knox can, but if they can function in the run game like they can here, right, that's where that real advantage of 12 personnel starts to show through, because now you got true mismatch potential in both the run and pass.
Yeah, and here's one from Harris. So again, we're showing you this same duo play with each different running back with Josh Allen under center. I mean, look at Dawkins has been a monster in the run game. And in my opinion, that's really not his strength over the course of his career. He's been more of a pass blocker, but dude, some of these runs, these combo blocks, look at the displacement he put on that guy. He damn near knocked him to the other A gap, and then he climbed to the next level. Harris's vision isn't all that good here, but the yards he's able to get, before he's even really contacted, is phenomenal. Again, and you're talking in a situation where the field is flipped. You're backed up. You're basically on your own 5-yard line. Your back's to the goal line, and you're able to trot out this heavy, run set look and let them know, hey, we're running the ball. It's pretty obvious we're running the ball, and they're still able to pick up a chunk of yardage on this play.
I love how Dawkins chucks his man so hard that it also kind of like throws McGovern off kilter. Like, he's just like, what the hell just happened?
He's doing like a pirouette.
He tries to.
What just hit me?
He spins out of it. Watch him as he like puts his hands wide when he spins out of it, like he's trying to catch his bearings. He's like, okay, whoa, like, because he just kind of put him into the spin cycle a bit. But again, talking about, what do we talk about? Like, yards before contact for the running backs, the vertical displacement that we talk about with the downhill style of this scheme. That's why the Bills continue to work it. Like, they're sound technically with it, and it continues to win. We'll see what happens, as they play a much better defensive line in Washington this week, although they were gouged a bit in the run game, particularly by gap runs, not necessarily duo, but that's a conversation for another time. Again, vertical displacement. I wish Harris cut initially and didn't have to get bounced into the hole, kind of like a little pinball. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, if he hits that alley right off the rip, he has the opportunity to be one-on-one with Epps, who's coming down from that post safety. And then if you put a move on him, who knows what potentially happens. It's just a scheme that continues to work for them for all three running backs. And then, even the tight ends working it through as well. Like, it's just something, you don't have to be a mauler. You don't have to be Kincaid and drive somebody into the ground. Like, just get into the kitchen of your man, occupy him, let the scheme take over, let the running backs take over.
Yeah. And this is duo. This time it's Gilliam, and I think that's Morris at tight end. So a different personnel grouping on this play. And then this is Cook's big run. Bounces, shows like he's going to bounce outside, but then cuts it back inside for a chunk play. And I think this is the run that put him over 100, right? This put him over 100 yards.
Yeah, he finished with 123 for the day.
Like, this is just beautiful and how he sets this up. Here comes the linebacker downhill. So what does Cook do? He bounces it outside. Oh, that corner is coming down, right? He's going to have to make the tackle. What does Cook do? He said, nope. Oh, look at this gap. Sets it up perfectly and then makes that guy miss. Just slippery. More of a slasher, not that power, downhill type presence, more of a slasher. But man, it's such a different change of pace when you're comparing his type of running style to Murray and Harris.
And it all fits within this scheme because it's such, I don't want to say simple and downplay, but it's such a simple read. If you're the running back, like, you take that step and you can watch Cook on this play. Like, he's eyeing up Spillane as soon as he's taking that handoff. He sees Spillane start to come through. And so exactly like you said, puts his foot in the ground, bounces it, makes another cut.
Props right here on this double team, Brown and Torrance. Torrance senses that run through, and boy, does he put a stop to that. Boom.
And then that's where you're going to have the advantage against smaller, quicker linebackers if you're Osiris Torrance, because when they try to shoot, if you just get a body or a paw on them, you're going to stop them in their tracks like Torrance does here. But again, that's part of the nature of why we were excited when they drafted Torrance, because it was like, are they trying to move to more of a downhill like run scheme with like that vertical displacement aspect? And they get it. And what we've showed you here with these 3 runs, like, it could be Cook, where you're slippery and a slasher and you flow. You could be a hammer like Murray or a hammer like Harris. Like, either way, this run scheme can work for you because of how the offensive line blocks it, because your read is a running back. This is the one too that I like.
Yeah.
This is the duo in a nutshell of just put your running back on, in theory, the worst tackler on a defense and let him go to work.
Yeah, and again, this is out of shotgun, so it's the same concept, but this time it's from shotgun. And I talked about Kincaid being the cleanup here. Watch how Knox and Dawkins are washing these guys down, and then you got this defender number 1 coming down to kind of fill, so they have numbers with the cornerback as well. Well, guess what? You have Kincaid to clean that up, seal that off, and now you get the one-on-one running back on that DB, and then he did this like 2 weeks in a row now, where he has made the contained player lose his assignment, and he's able to get outside to move the chains. Like, his burst and acceleration really have caught guys off guard, especially when we're talking these runs where he can bounce it out wide.
And that's such a huge difference for the Bills run game and the Bills offense. They have not had a running back with that kind of juice, where like Bennett isn't in horrible position there. Like, and Cook just bubbles it out and goes backwards to just get around the corner because he has that speed and because he has that juice. And so that's where the individual
and they know it's coming.
set. Yes.
They freaking know it's coming. Look at this. Look, it's coming over there.
And they're calling it out. And so what are they trying to do on this time? Like, again, they're calling it out. The other times, the run ended up staying on track and went inside. But this is what we talked about earlier, Eric, with how that duo run can turn into, or what it can turn into. If that side gets washed down, the running back is going to read that track and adjust and bounce it outside. He just gets a one-on-one. And, you know, it's similar to what happened with Breece Hall against Trey the other week. Again, different kind of idea, but the theory of you want or run games, offensive line coaches, offensive coordinators, they want to put their running backs in scenarios where they're one-on-one with, again, in theory, most defenses' worst tackler is probably going to be their cornerbacks, either because of technique or size or just because of effort, and they don't want to. Bennett's got the effort here. He just gets blown by Cook, and that's the type of, again, another mismatch that you can create this time in the run game. And again, based on the personnel that the defense is in, they get washed down easy against the bigger physical framed tight ends the Bills have, create a one-on-one matchup on the outside, and Cook eats.
Yeah, I mean, the run game has been fun. It hasn't really had to be the central piece yet, but you saw it in that game. Again, it was a good blueprint game. Some of the concepts they used were good, you know, a multitude of concepts, but they were able to lean on those running backs in different ways at different times in different situations. So that was fun. But now we need to get to the passing game and talk about the changes that happened in week 2, but also what we've seen the first couple of weeks, you know, and how the Bills have changed their philosophy. They've gone from being an 11 personnel team, so 1 running back and 1 tight end, to a 12 personnel team. Again, using that 50% of the time through 2 weeks. And we want to kind of talk about that in the grand scheme of things of how it's helped this offense. We showed some of the running stuff, but now we're going to take a look at some of the passing stuff. No, let's take a look at, first of all, the distribution, Anthony. Let's take a look at, you know, where the ball is going now on this offense. And what you're going to see is a lot of the passes now in 2022, wide receivers are getting over 63% of those targets. Tight ends were getting 14.6%, which was 31st. Running backs were getting 18.6%. That was 18th. Now, if you look at 2023, wide receivers are only getting 50% of the touches. That's 25th overall. Tight ends are getting 25.3%. And that's 7th overall. And running backs are getting 21.8%. So it's obvious. The Bills have changed their philosophy a little bit. And that's all fine and dandy. Yes, they're using more tight ends. You know, tight ends are going to get the passes thrown their way a little more. There's more of them on the field. Yeah, that's all. It all makes sense. It's all rational. It's all logical. But it's the type of players that they brought in at those positions. And it's the type of players that they have at running back now that has allowed Josh Allen to have an adjusted completion percentage, Anthony, of 83.8%. That's crazy. 3rd overall. through 2 weeks. And again, adjusted completion percentage is different than just regular completion percentage. It takes away spikes, throwaways. I think it even takes away if a quarterback is hit as he's thrown. So it's bare bones. Like when he steps back, hits that back foot and throws it, that's basically, it's black or white. There's no gray area. And so Josh is third right now. And the other thing that's really stood out to me is the drop rate. And we say this because when we look at the average depth of the target and where these balls are going, especially in the Raiders game, like most of the passes were under 10 yards, right, Anthony? He has a drop rate of 3.2%, which is the 5th lowest. And Josh Allen's normally top 5 in that category. So the change in philosophy when it comes to the personnel groupings, using more tight ends, throwing to the tight ends, throwing it to the running backs on those checkdowns and swing routes, that has helped Josh stay ahead of the chains, but it's also helped Josh complete at a high rate. When we're talking, and it's something that we want for Josh Allen. We want that efficiency.
Yeah, there's just a multitude of benefits when you have this kind of distribution, whether it's the comfortability for Josh Allen being able to work different areas of the field, or, even the individual. I think Gabe Davis being healthy is a nice boon to him versus being banged up with that ankle last year. But, sitting where he is right now, there's 165 players with at least 5 targets on the year. Gabe Davis is 19th in EPA per target, like back to taking advantage of when he gets those looks. We know Diggs is going to be this target monster, but Gabe Davis is back to being this efficient piece in the intermediate. And then you see the rest of the distribution for the tight ends and running backs. It makes it so much harder for a defense because you literally have to cover everything. Like, you have to cover the running backs. You have to cover the tight ends. You have to figure out what personnel grouping is going to match where, because there's threats all over the place. And you mentioned that 50%, 12 personnel usage. Again, this is still wild. So for reference, the Seahawks and the Packers last year had the highest 12 personnel usage rates for the season at 30%. The Bills are leading the league at 50 right now, 20 percentage points higher. That's insane. And then if you look at the Bills' 12 personnel usage last year, it was 31st in the league. It was 6%. But again, we said this before, like, depends on how they classify Gilliam, if he's a fullback or as a tight end. So even if you want to add 21 and 12 together, their usage rate in 2022 would have been 23%. So from 23% to 50, and then the 50% dwarfing the Packers and Seahawks, who led the league in 12 last year. The Bills have taken that 12 personnel dial and significantly leaned into it formationally, but also from a distribution standpoint. And the formations they get into, paired with the personnel, is allowing them to work in different concepts, allowing them to attack different areas, and it's making for a more fluid, balanced overall passing attack for Josh when he takes those options that are available to him.
Yeah, and I will say, I think the game plan in week 1 wasn't all that different than week 2.
Correct.
And that's what we're talking, the adjusted completion percentage at 83.8 being 3rd overall. That's with all those interceptions and all those things that happened last week. So if he didn't turn that ball over, that's why we put most of the blame on Josh Allen. If he didn't turn the ball over, they win that game. But his numbers would be through the roof, even more so than they already are. And you can see the improvement. Look at the on-target percentage in week 1 versus week 2, 74.4% in week 1, 91.7% in week 2. EPA was, through the roof. And so it was obvious when you watch the game against the Raiders that, Josh was vibing. He didn't have to really go into his bag of tricks all that often. Maybe 2 or 3 plays, as opposed to 1 or 2 of those plays a drive, in week 1, or when he is pressing it a little too much. So we saw some good improvement from Josh from week 1 to week 2, but I don't think we're talking about, how well he's been playing as a passer, aside from the interceptions. He's been super efficient. And it's something that we talked about last year with Ken Dorsey, where it was a uber efficient, season by Josh Allen and Ken Dorsey. There's no doubting that. And you look at the numbers, you can't refute that. And Dorsey attacks coverages. And sometimes we, critiqued him for, hey, he's attacking coverage, but he's not really necessarily putting Josh in the best position. It's something he's comfortable throwing when we're talking concepts. One thing that he's doing this year is he's given Josh concepts that he likes and that he is, willing to throw in that short area, 0 to 9 yards, under 10 yards. But he's doing it to guys like Kincaid and Knox and Cook. And you saw it a bunch in this game. And those guys are getting the ball quickly, and they're getting yards after the catch, Tight ends are making those guys pay for having to tackle them. And I just think that philosophy change of adding those guys in that underneath game, and you're going to see it in some of these plays when we get to the film, where they're helping the offensive line, chipping, nudging, jam blocks, and then releasing. And defenses are like totally forgetting about them because it's not something they did a bunch of last year. It's a different strategy. And so those guys, when they get those checkdowns in the flats now, they can turn those into 8 yards. They can move the chains on those little plays. Instead of just being home run balls or first down balls, they're taking that first level efficient play. Hey, this is an efficient play. This is meant to get 4 to 6 yards and stay ahead of the chains, as opposed to 10 yards or touchdown, right? And so staying on schedule was huge in this game, not just with the run game, but getting it to the tight ends and running backs, something that Josh has been doing a lot of the first 2 weeks.
And it pairs so well with, I don't want to do it after a game where, Crosby got, held in check, but Spencer Brown is still a question mark at the right tackle spot. So you're still going to have to give him some help. How do you give him that help? Okay, let's add, a chipper, whether it's Cook or whether it's a tight end or something like that. And then exactly to your point, now you take that chipper and you release them underneath. And sometimes a defense, sometimes it's a purposeful, no cover zone. We're just going to leave it and then we'll kind of rally and spill and kill if we need to. Kill at the choke point there if we need to. Or they, like you said, they just forget about him. There's guys open. And now when Josh is checking that ball down into this open area underneath, it's guys like James Cook. It's guys like Dalton Kincaid. It's guys like Dawson Knox. These guys who are athletic or can break tackles. Or if you're Kincaid or Knox, you catch that ball underneath, who's probably coming to tackle you? A nickel corner. So you know what you do? You put your shoulder down and you punish him. Or you're checking it down to James Cook. And it doesn't matter who he's in space against. If you give James Cook like a 5 radius area to work with against a defender, he's probably going to make a miss and get through him. So now you're working in a concept to help protect your right tackle, but then it's turning into an advantageous pass look for your quarterback and an easy check down. And then on top of it all, Eric, there was a key point at halftime. I forget who the reporter was, but she talked to Josh McDaniels, and coming out of half, he said, I'm paraphrasing, but we wanted to force, we wanted to see if Josh Allen would be efficient, if he would take, what we gave him. And he did. Now we're going to have to change some things. This is how defenses are going to operate. They want to see, is Josh Allen really going to stay on schedule? Is he really going to take what we give him? Is he really going to stay this efficient? And he showed in this game, all right, cool. You want me to do that? Granted, he mixed in some Josh Allen risky plays, which worked out for him, but he showed what happens when he stays on schedule. And Eric, if he stays on schedule to that degree, that's when defenses have to start to creep up to honor it.
They have to.
Then those chunk plays.
Those big plays happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
Again, I talked about ADOT so far this year. Listen to this, guys. Per Pro Football Focus, average depth of target for Josh Allen so far through 2 games is 6.6. Now let's flash back to prior few years. So 6.6 this year. Last year was 10.2. The year before that was 9.1. The year before that was 9.3, 9.7, 11.5. That is a drastic change. And again, to wrap up this segment, we believe it has a lot to do, or again, 2 games in, with the philosophy change, the personnel change, and the Bills actually adjusting to as you said, what defenses are doing and playing those umbrella coverages and making them take those efficient plays and not always swinging for the fences. That's exactly what the Bills needed from Josh. That's what they wanted him to work on this entire offseason. And that's what we're going to start to break down here in the film room. Let's get into some of this Raiders film. The first play, we're going to kick it off with a bang. This is our real estate rewind. Touchdown play to Dawson Knox. A beautiful play that we've seen many, many times over the years. Some great ball handling from Josh Allen, hides the ball, sleight of hand. You'll see it from the end zone angle. Does a great job of hiding that ball as he bootlegs out and then finds Dawson Knox, who's wide open. This is our real estate rewind, sponsored by Jonathan Miller from Metro Roberts Realty.
Yeah, our boy, Mr. Jonathan Miller, who we've been shouting out pretty regularly. We just love how he approaches the real estate game. Eric, you talk about it all the time, like all the technology we use, whether it's different advanced metrics, whether it's, Huddle, the thing that we're showing this film breakdown on right now, all the different pieces that we use to take advantage of everything in our game. That's what Jonathan Miller does to help you sell your home faster. He does a lot of professional photography. He does a 3D virtual tour, drone photos and videos. They're all included with each listing at no extra charge. He works with buyers and sellers in all price ranges, and he also donates a portion of his commission from each sale to rescue an animal. His contact information is in our episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform. We're proud to sponsor or to work with him as a sponsor and have him sponsoring this segment. And this is one that you have to rewind several times, Eric, because you get that sleight of hand, you get that, misleading play from Josh Allen, something that he's so adept at. I feel like we've shown plays like this like countless times here in the film room, and he's just so smooth with it, and it leads to a nice touchdown here. Oh, poor Diablo. Oh man, poor dude.
Yeah, I mean, totally loses sight of the ball there. He's the contained player. He's the guy that has to put pressure on Josh Allen. Good fake by Knox of blocking and then getting out. And again, we've broken this play several times. The Bills ran it against Carolina, where they fooled Stephon Gilmore. They ran it in the Saints game. I think it was to Knox, and they also ran it to Davis. Yes. They ran it in the Rams game, first game last year. Like, this is their short yardage red zone play that they love to use, and it's because of Josh Allen. So as you said, man, this is our Real Estate Rewind, sponsored by Jonathan Miller, and it's a play you have to watch several times, and it's a play I'm sure that Diablo didn't like watching several times in the film room when they were going over this on Monday morning.
It's so bad because he's in position, and then you can literally see him be like, oh, he handed it off. Oh no. And then he commits, and then you could see him just, oh no. And by that time it's done because Allen has the angle. He's outside and he flips it. Again, we've seen it so many times. The sleight of hand works. What also helps that play work there is the Bills have been successful running the ball in the low red zone at that point. So it makes the defense commit even further, and it makes the opportunity even easier. Yeah,
just awesome stuff. And, we talk about the scheme in this game, and one thing they did to slow down Crosby is, have tight ends stay in, help, chip, nudge block, chip block. You kind of see that there to the top of the screen. This is a 3-level passing concept. It's something that the Bills need to run more of. You can see the 12 personnel, both tight ends to the top of the screen. You're getting Knox releasing. He's the vertical clear out. You get Sherfield coming over. He's the intermediate route. And then Kincaid is, again, jamming and holding up Crosby and then getting to the flats. And so Crosby essentially has to make a decision. Do I stay with Kincaid, or do I go become the contained player, which he's supposed to be, and try to slow down Josh Allen? You'll see he gets thrown into a bind here, and it's great timing by Kincaid. Josh does a great job, first of all, of making that unblocked defender miss because there was some kind of blown pass protection. But the timing of the release by Kincaid, he's really the only option here. He's wide open. And again, he's already halfway turning upfield as he's catching it, and he's able to lower his shoulder and absorb that blow, stay on his feet, and get the first down.
This is one that when you're watching on the broadcast, like, you hear the pads pop when he lowers his shoulder into Hobbs and he crunches him and he finishes him. And again, this is part of the advantage if you're talking about Dalton Kincaid, what he offers, the athleticism and the speed and the fluidity to operate in that space, but the size and the frame to then punish defensive backs who are going to come and work against him either in the route distribution or when he's a ball carrier, he's got the ball in his hands. The way this finishes with, Sherfield coming across the field, this almost kind of works a little bit. It's not a sail concept, kind of functions in that vein. And that's something that Josh Allen really works well. He hits Knox on the sail route a ton. He's very good at these layered concepts where he's got the 3 levels. And it also works really well against these zone coverages where it's going to pull a defender one way or the other. And in this instance, where teams are not wanting to give Josh Allen anything deep and they want to keep everything in front of him, the easiest option is just, okay, cool, let me flick the ball to the underneath guy. And whether it's Kincaid on this one, maybe it's Cook next time on another design, they just eat up these free yards. And crazy, Cook on the next one, maybe that's what happens on this play.
Yeah, and so now the Bills, they have 13 personnel, so 1 running back, 3 tight ends, and they assign 2 tight ends to the bottom of the screen where Crosby is right here, and they keep them in. So they want to push the ball down the field. Again, take those shots. This is a half field read. You can see there's only 3 routes and they're going to the top. But because of the formation, the condensed formation and the personnel, And, the play action look of getting Josh under center and then getting him away from the line of scrimmage, it creates a good pocket. You're accounting for Crosby. Crosby is not an issue on this play. And you can see he kind of loops inside. But look at the pocket. I mean, the play action, the personnel, most of these offensive linemen are finishing near the line of scrimmage. There's no one open down the field, but they forget about Cook. Again, we talked about getting the ball to the running backs and tight ends and those percentages being up. Well, guess what? These linebackers drop coverage on Cook, and it's just an easy pitch and catch. And next thing you know, you got 26 yards.
Oh, this is the one that I couldn't remember, but I mentioned earlier. Just the way he drops the shoulder on Merrick. Like, he could have dipped out, but he's like, no, screw you. I'm going to put my shoulder down. He drops
Kincaid.
Trevon
Look at Kincaid, too.
Yeah, he knows it. He knows
smack.
it. Yeah, Kincaid stares him down. And look at Sherfield knows it. He's pumped. Little helmet-to-helmet action for Cook there. Really nice way to finish that run off physically for James Cook, which I love. But this is also some of the benefit of under center play action or play action in general, right? Spillane comes forward on the run action and then is like, uh-oh, let me drop back into coverage. And then he's trying to drop back into coverage and the running back releases. And, Diablo is focused on Kincaid. So he's covering Kincaid. And all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, James Cook is wide open underneath. This one, I think, if Kincaid could have gotten through his route, this is going to turn into just a sale concept. Again, what I talked about on the previous play, and kind of finishes similarly to that first play. Again, 3-level concept. You got layers. Somebody's going to be open against the zone coverage. You just got to see which defender gets pulled where. This is a very easy read for Josh Allen, and Allen takes the easy option, which is Cook, in tons of space. And this is also, again, one last piece, where Cook makes a big difference versus previous running backs, because he has the speed to eat up that open space quickly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. He's been great so far through 2 games, and the way they're using him has really benefited the offense. This play, you're going to see Allen look to the middle of the field pre to post snap, but then he changes who he wants to throw it to, and he gets it to Diggs on this play. Once again, they're getting a jam on Crosby. He's out here. You got Knox out wide. He helps Spencer Brown on this play. We'll start with that. You see him slow up Crosby, allows Brown to slowly get out there, calculate that angle, help, keep Crosby out wide. That's the main thing here too, right, Anthony? Look how far out he is, and he's got to work through 2 guys to get to Josh Allen. That's why Josh is able to survey the field, and he wants to go to Gabe Davis on this dig versus this single high look. But the weak side safety dropped down into a robber roll. So pre to post snap, the picture changed, and Josh reloads. I don't know how he does this, Anthony.
Right. Roethlisberger used to do that all the time too, and I never understood how.
I would throw my shoulder out doing that. But that safety coming down from the weak side means that Diggs is one-on-one with the safety. He works through the disruption there, and then Josh is able to step into that throw and get it down the field for a 17-yard gain. Great work pre to post snap by Josh Allen. I like the strategy of getting Crosby out wide, having him work through 2 guys. It was a theme for the day. I traded 15 plays where the Bills got Spencer Brown help with a tight end or a running back, and this was just one of those plays. And just awesome work by the offense on this play.
Yeah, and again, no disrespect to Spencer Brown, but we know the inconsistency he operates with, and he's going up against an all-pro, legitimately one of the best defensive players in football, in Maxx Crosby. And I love this too, because Crosby, a lot of edge guys like the wide alignment, but he really likes that wide alignment, and he'll use it to generate speed to power and go through your chest, or he'll stab and jump inside and swipe and beat you. So making him line up even wider and then having to go through multiple players, it just wore him down as the game went on.
Yeah, and this is scheme. They want this 2-man game here by the D tackle and the linebacker to occupy these 3 interior guys and have Brown one-on-one with Crosby. But again, the Bills have a counter. They have a plan, and it allows Josh to scan down the field. Just, again, the scheme was just on point, and then the guys on the field just executed.
Yeah, it just keeps him nice and clean, and it gives him the opportunity to not have to worry about pressure, and it gives him the opportunity to see Epps spinning down and be like, uh-oh, he's there. Let me hold on to this ball, get it over to Diggs. I also like the way Diggs gets free at the top of his route, just that little swim move, and it just drops Bennett, and he clears him and gets horizontal to get himself open. Again, nice job by Josh Allen. Nice initial design to help neutralize Crosby, set up Josh Allen for success, and then a good piece from Diggs on the back end. Wanted to bring up the super chat real quick. White Counts King, appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Thank you.
And you talked about how Ken Dorsey likes to target number 41, aka Reggie Gilliam. He did that last season as well in the Steelers game. I'm assuming, Eric, at some point with how much Dorsey likes the matchups, we'll see some Reggie Gilliam burn. He had he was a lead blocker for like a little swing screen pass to Cook this past game. He got a target and a catch early on as well. Like Dorsey's gonna, finagle those guys in based on matchup pieces.
Yeah, and we saw it early in this game when we talk about how they used guys to chip. Gilliam was used off the wing there to help with Crosby on one play, and Josh looked on the field, nothing was there, and he saw that defender with his back to the man. He was running deep, and there was no one in the flats. He hit Gilliam. It was only like a 2 or 3 yard gain, but again, it's hitting those guys when they're open to make them respect it. And, eventually the things down the field do open, as we saw in this game. So
real quick, we have one more. This is a real one going all the way back. MP says, I remember when Eric wanted us to draft Crosby.
I know.
We were talking, you and I were talking about this in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, how much you wanted. So MP saying it, he's been here since day one. I like it.
Oh, gee, I appreciate it, MP. Yeah, no doubt. He was a guy that when he was coming out of Eastern Michigan, I broke down film in the chat with him a bunch of times, and he kind of kept me in the loop about his visits with the Bills and how they went and everything. Like, we legit thought the Bills were going to take Crosby.
Oh, if only, man.
It was that good of a relationship with the Bills, but unfortunately he did go to the Raiders. But yeah, he was definitely a crush of mine, the one that got away. But like I said, hey, the hometown Bills, now our team, they took it to him. He had 4 pressures in this game.
Roughly, after having 6 in week 1. Like,
right. No,
wild.
It's just good stuff from the offensive staff and the players on the field. So let's get to this next play. This is our easy loan auto sales, making it look easy play. And we say this is making it look easy, and Josh Allen in his own way made this play to Shakir look easy, but this was incredibly difficult. So much so that only probably a couple guys, if not one guy, can do this type of thing. And it's Josh Allen. It's the guy that is the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. This segment sponsored by Easy Loan Auto Sales. We appreciate their sponsorship, and we appreciate this play from Josh Allen by extending the play from the pocket for the touchdown.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Sponsored by Easy Loan Auto Sales. Regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help you get behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. Eric, this is one of the plays where Crosby did his job on this one. He just works.
He won.
Yeah, he won. Enough said.
Simply put.
That spin move is nasty. He spins around and gets that ice pick and just gets it right into the back of spin. I love Maxx Crosby so much. That's a conversation for another time. But Allen sees it, tries to step up, then he sees the pressure on the interior. So literally, like, he pumps the brakes. Like he puts his foot on the brakes. Yeah. Like, whoops, has to back up. And then his ability this is where, like, it's just ridiculous. As he backs up, he gets his eyes back downfield. Then he sees Shakir. Then he drops that arm and gets a different arm slot or arm angle to fire it. He did it on another throw in this game too, to get it around the defender. Look at the zip on the ball. Like, it is on a line right to Shakir. I like the way how Shakir, 1, secures the catch, but then 2, finishes through 2 guys to get across the goal line. Like, this is, what this one also made me think of a little bit? The touchdown pass rookie year in the preseason against the Browns. Like, just, you see the athleticism, the pocket manipulation, but then also the poise and just the unicorn ability. Like, this play is ridiculous.
And Sarah Christine in our chat says, did you guys see Morris flip Crosby over his back? I want to talk about that real quick because I have it diagrammed here. So on the snap, once again, the Raiders are executing a little game where defensive lineman slants inside. I think Spillane wants to come here, but he loops over here because, again, they know that this guy, Brown, is going to have to go meet Crosby. And so you see Spillane come free right here. And that's because, so you see Morris and Torrance working on this defensive lineman, and they have to keep an eye on that linebacker coming from the second level. Well, I assume that Morse feels that Torrance is hanging heavy on that defensive lineman. And from the other angle, it almost looks like the D lineman is holding Torrance. You can see his right shoulder kind of dipping inside. And so as that guy's looping inside, that linebacker, Morse is like, okay, if Torrance is going to hang heavy, I got to go get Spillane. Well, they both peel off of the defensive lineman. So that's why he's free. But as Sarah says, Morse does a great job of kind of walling both of these guys off, flipping Crosby here. But that D lineman is once again right in the face of Josh. And Josh wanted to run this. When he pulled it down, he was 100% trying to run it. But then last second, as you said, had that oh shit moment and says, you know what? I'm going to get my eyes back up, and Shakir's open for the touchdown. So awesome. I said reactive athleticism, his ability to flip that switch and react athletically to this play. And this, what unfolded in front of him is really what allowed him to make that play to Shakir, and good contact balance, as you said, on the back end by Shakir for the touchdown. And that's why this play was our easy loan auto sales, making it look easy. I should put that in quotes, making it look easy, because this was not easy. This was one hell of a play by Allen. This was Allen becoming an alien on this play. Again, he didn't have to do it much. He didn't have to do it often in this game, but this was one of those plays he did.
But Eric, this is where it becomes like, how do you defend Josh Allen if he's going to live efficiently, but then also has the ability to uncork these type of plays? Bills fans are probably going to be upset. It's how Mahomes has changed his game. He still has that ability to create all these ridiculous plays off script, but he's so on schedule and efficient at the same time. And when that happens, how do you defeat a guy like that? The person who has the ability to just beat you in the moment with ridiculousness, or beat you on schedule with efficiency and timing. You just pick how you die, but either way you die.
Yeah. Either way you die. I like it. And this is another play I loved. And really, if I was forced to pick one play from this game to kind of categorize and encapsulate what I said on social media, encapsulate this game from an offensive perspective, from a Josh Allen perspective, it would be this play. Josh Allen under center, play action pass, sail concept. You talked about it. He loves this concept. They're looking for the shot down the field. There's nothing there. Kincaid is a delayed release here. He's helping on Crosby. And after the play fake, he slips out into the flats. Josh is looking high to low, clearing routes outside. Typically, you see Diggs catch this out here on that sail concept, but there's three guys around him. Josh says, you know what? I'm just going to dump it down. You saw Josh. It crossed his mind.
Yeah, you see him trying to be like, can I do it?
Are you going to eat that cheeseburger? Oh, yeah, it crossed my mind. He literally wanted to throw that, and I'm glad he didn't. He takes what's given to him, and he's able to get 8 yards on first down off a play action pass, a simple concept, from under center. This is the play that really made me realize, Josh is in the zone. This is at the top of the third quarter, and he's just taking what the defense is getting. Don't throw this. Don't throw that. You can't go deep. Just take the wide open guy. He does, and that's Kincaid. He gets 8 yards again, top to bottom. One of my favorite plays in this game.
And it makes sense why it would be. There's so many pieces that are working. First off, the initial piece of, Maxx Crosby is a threat on every rep. Let's try and neutralize him a little bit with our tight end. And also, shout out to Kincaid, helping and feeding him into Brown a little bit. So one, you get that initial piece. Two, you get, your rookie tight end who you drafted to have this kind of ability out in space so he can take advantage when given that space. You lined up the rest of the pocket. Look at how nice there's pocket. It's a nice pocket. Crosby's going to start to come through, but at this point, Allen has opportunities. So it doesn't matter even if Crosby comes screaming through, but Brown gets his hands on him. And then you get the Josh Allen piece where in week 1, maybe he tries to fit this to Sherfield downfield because he doesn't see that safety coming over. He's like, screw it, let me throw it down. But here's Eric, like you said, you're up 21-10, start of the second half, you're near midfield, it's first down. Just take what's given to you. And there's so much space underneath. Just take it. And we know he hits that sail route on the sail concept all the time.
Remember the Patriots game? He fit that in that small window.
Absolutely.
It's almost the same type of coverage here, but he didn't take it this game. And again, that's the progression, and I don't want to say maturation. That's the progression and mindset I want from Josh Allen. If you play like this is how the Bills are going to win big games, 38-10, because he's being smart with the football and his decision making.
And this is also so easy. This is where yo, bro, like you don't have to do any of the work if you're Josh Allen. Let me just
Right.
dump it down to my athletic rookie tight end and let him work in space. Like this is easy. Like I don't need to chuck it 10, air yards or 15 air yards downfield. Let me just chuck it 6 and see what happens. And then Kincaid finishes through the nickel corner again. Like
Right.
exactly to your point. Like it's understandable why that's your favorite. That play is a microcosm of so many things that we wanted to see from this offense schematically, structurally, design standpoint, execution standpoint, from Dorsey, from Josh, from roster building and Kincaid. Like it's a microcosmic culmination of so many things.
Right. And we're going to we got 3 more plays. We're running a little late. Once again, I mean, that's kind of par for the course for us. But
there's a lot of important stuff to go over.
There's a lot of important stuff. And here's another play where Josh Allen becomes an alien. He escapes a pocket. And this is something I picked up on in film is Crosby loves those wide alignments, but he also loves to use those inside moves. You saw the spin move. He used a lot of arm overs. He likes to take the shortest line to the quarterback. He wants that tackle to set out wide and then come inside, as you can kind of see here. And he does that, but he tries using speed to power. And that broke contain. It showed up on 2 big plays against the Broncos in week 1. And so
Yes.
I saw that before the game. I'm like, oh, man, those are the opportunities where Josh can get outside the pocket. That's exactly what happens here. There's really nothing open on this play. Josh goes into scramble drill mode. It's 4th and 2. He wants to get it into the end zone. You see Davis just creep, and then high point it. Hold on to the ball for the touchdown. Another one of those plays. Again, there weren't many where Josh kind of had to play above the scheme. The play wasn't there. The design wasn't there, where he had to bust out, that playmaking attitude. And this is one of those plays. Yeah, don't do it. It's a touchdown. You take the good with the bad more times than not. It ends up like this, and big points for the Bills.
I love the call out there from you on Crosby. It was, something I noted as well watching that week 1 tape. Like he'll take that wide alignment and then he will work through your inside shoulder or work through your chest. He got the Broncos right tackle a ton, Mike McGlinchey a ton in week 1. He'll swipe the hands. He'll get inside. He forces Allen to evade on this one. And then, like you said, like this is one of those riskier plays, risk reward. I'm okay with it on this one because it's 4th down. You don't really have another option here. Even if you throw an interception, it's like, okay, they get the ball out at the 20, but you're not going to be able to run this in. And, everybody and their mother is going to tell you, you don't throw back across your body. You don't throw back across your body into traffic. But it works here for Allen. And this is, again, some of that chaos creation. And when he can kind of control that chaos, it's beautiful. I also like he gets the ball over both defenders in the line there to get it to Davis. And we get a tutty.
Yeah, no doubt. So 2 more plays, guys. 2 more plays. Hang in there with us. Another under center play action pass. Again, protecting versus Crosby. And this is where we see some of that rookie smoothness, that transition from pass catcher to runner, and then the slipperiness after the tackle here. This is one of those personnel groupings we talked about. Heavy personnel grouping, 12 personnel on this play. I'm sorry. But once again, you're keeping 2 guys in, a wide receiver and a tight end on Crosby to that side. And using under center play action, moving the pocket, right? Changing that delivery point. I love this. I love this from under center. I love it from shotgun. And just look at the smoothness on Kincaid of working through that second level and the shake to move through that linebacker level. He's wide open over the middle. And then you see 3 guys converging on him. Watch this little and one mixtape. Like it's just ridiculous. The crossovers and just getting downfield. So I like this play, 14 yards, good personnel grouping, condensed set, in that area of the field, 14-yard gain to Kincaid.
I like how Kincaid was pissed at the end of this. Like he feels like he should have gotten through Merrick at the end instead of getting tripped up. Like he wanted more yards on this, which is understandable. Like he works through 3. Oh, and he's so close. He just gets tripped up a little bit at the end and he knows it. This is a nice piece. Again, like just when the running game is working, you get fast flowing defenses or just defenses that have to honor that run action. Like this is where you can start to gouge them and then take advantage of your athletic tight ends or, whichever pieces you want to take advantage of. But probably in this instance, it's going to be those tight ends. This is also something I want to see them use, any type of misdirection or type of extra processing creation that you can have. This is something that'll work well against Washington this weekend. They were a defense that got gouged a ton by misdirection in the pass or the run this past week against Denver. So that's a nice piece to kind of key into against Washington. But yeah, it's the benefits and culmination of a lot of things as the game has gone on. And again, Kincaid making plays, Allen with the good ball fake. Like poor Diablo again, like he's selling out to go after Cook and then has to put his foot in the ground. And then you get the blocking again. What are you trying to do against Mr. Maxx Crosby? He's nasty.
Knox is first, and then he comes free, Crosby comes free. Well, there's Sherfield. Like, again, just make him work for it. And that's what we talked about, that one-dimensional aspect of the defense of the Raiders. All they have is really Crosby, and they made him work. And he's a high-effort motor guy, but man, he had to be burned out after what the Bills did to him. But the Bills set a blueprint. The Bills set a blueprint in that game plan against Crosby. And this is one, again, he lost contain. This is the big play to Gabriel Davis for 40 yards on 3rd and 6. Mesh concept. Nothing was really there from the get-go, but you get Crosby out wide again. He takes that inside line. He looks like he's going to get a nice line with Torrance occupied here to the quarterback. Well, guess what? Josh sees it immediately. He knows it's man coverage. And now it's just scramble drill mode. And eventually Davis separates, and then you get the floater up and over the top for 40 yards to Gabe Davis. Again, if Josh and Gabe are on the same page when it comes to second reaction plays like this, forget about it. The Bills are a lot more difficult to defend, especially when guys lose contain like that. This is easy money rolling to his right and hitting Davis down the field.
Absolutely. And just a little flick of the wrist. And I really love from Gabe Davis here, because Bennett is on him, like attached to him as Davis is going across. And so Gabe is eyeing Josh. You can see him feel right there. He starts to get the separation from Bennett and starts to get upfield, and boom, Bennett is going more of a horizontal route, and Davis feels it. So what does he do? He doesn't keep drifting horizontally. He cuts it more upfield, so that way he can separate and he can give Josh more room. And look at how Bennett keeps going a little bit, but Davis is upfield. It creates just enough separation so that Allen can layer this ball in and put it over the top. That's a really nice, we showed what Diggs did last week on the touchdown against the Jets, creating that separation on the scramble drill and the low red zone. This is an example of Davis doing it in a different way, but creating that separation on the scramble drill just by getting vertical, knowing his angles in relation to his man that's covering him. Just a really smart play on the fly from Gabe Davis, and then a really great throw from Josh Allen, and we get a nice explosive play.
Yeah, that was some good film study. For the Bills, first of all, the Bills to know that Crosby will lose contain from time to time. And when those concepts showed up, he was able to extend the play and go into that playmaker mode, like you saw there, put the nail in the coffin, as most would say. But I thought overall, from the top, offense, defense did a great job with their game plans, the cohesion, their strategy, their game plan. It had focus. It was great, and the players executed again against a team that I don't think is all that good. But this is that game you're going to look as the blueprint, and yes, week 1 was terrible, but in many ways, maybe we look back at that and say, hey, that was the jumping off point. And Shaq Lawson had a quote today, something along the lines of, hey, the Jets woke him up. They woke him up big, and he expects Josh to be different from here on out. I feel like that could be a jumping off point when you're talking about, the bad. But also this game, you look at in week 2 against the Raiders, could be a jumping off point, a blueprint for the Bills offense and being efficient and controlling everything, pass game, run game. It was so good from top to bottom.
It really was, from the game plan to the design to the execution, like you said. And, we talked about it with a multitude of the plays that we showed, but just how interconnected everything was. Like the play design and, their route concepts were connected to how they wanted to neutralize Crosby. And then those, formations and route concepts were also connected to the type of run game style that they had in that game, which was also tied into the play action game. Just so many things. Everything was interwoven and it connected. And that's, again, another piece where if you're a defense, your strengths are getting mitigated, your weaknesses are getting amplified and exposed. And then on top of all of that, the offense is doing things that all look similar and playing to their strengths. And then you just get caught in this situation where you're just like, what do we defend? How do we defend it? And much different vibe, obviously, than after that week one loss, but it's a nice momentum starter to have going into Washington, a team that is 2-0, that believes in themselves. It's a well-coached group. They got some ability on both sides of the ball. I think, the wide receiver grouping for Washington will be a fun test for the Bills secondary, the defensive line for
too.
Bro.
Yeah.
They have Washington has
It's
been
going to
one
be
of
a
those
fun
teams
matchup.
that, yes, all Washington's been missing is a QB. If Howell can be that guy, they have one of the best skill position groups, wide receivers, tight end, running backs in the league. Their defensive line is nasty. And then after that, it's on to Miami for a showdown with the Dolphins. So hopefully, like you said, this game kind of put them on the right foot going forward in terms of knowing who they are and what they want to build upon. And Eric, hopefully this is the first of many successful Bills victories as we start to move forward here. But regardless of that, we will have you covered every single week live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern here in the Cover One Film Room. We want to thank everybody who rode with us live here on this episode. Thank you very much to Rick, Sophia, and Y-Town's King for your super chats. Thank you very much to everybody who rode with us live here. Your questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, the engagement with each other, the engagement with myself and Eric, the kind words that a lot of you threw our way. We see it. We appreciate it. And we're tremendously grateful for it. If you are still riding with us here live, please, 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 and thank you. If you haven't already, drop a like on this video. It goes a long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. If you are watching later and not watching live, please drop a like on this video as well. If you are listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review and subscribe to the Cover One Film Room on those platforms. While you're here on YouTube, subscribe to the Cover One Film Room. Subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. We have you covered literally every single day of the week with a multitude of content, varying and, kind of covering every single breadth of scope when it comes to anything and everything Buffalo Bills. So check it out. Check out the channel as a whole. Man, fun times, Eric. Anything you got before we wrap up here?
No,
Beautiful.
I think we wrapped up week 2 beautifully. Film, analytics. I mean, we had a little bit, different presentations. We thank all of you for joining us. Stay tuned. In 10 minutes, you're going to have Cover One Buffalo, another banging show. So stay on the channel. Don't go anywhere.
Absolutely. Go take a pee break, maybe get a snack, and pop it right back in here at 9 o'clock for Greg and Aaron and the Cover One Buffalo matchup show. But until next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, this will do it for us here on the Cover One Film Room. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Eric Turner, we appreciate all you folks more than you know. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Again, we'll see you next Wednesday, live 7 p.m. Eastern. And until then, Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.